Hello everybody. So I don't think I've done like a video just chatting about Lorne getting locked up again. I've done a couple of streams I think, but nothing. Don't really make the amount of videos that I used to. But yeah, I just thought I'd. It's nice to get things off your chest, innit? Because we're all kind of like invested, aren't we, in the Lorne saga? We have an interest in it for whatever reason, to varying degrees, and it's like, when did he get out? Was it 2012? So it's taken 7 years of him fumbling around and just calamity to be back in the position where he's in jail and he's not learned a single thing, which is remarkable. I mean, he is literally an endless source of astonishment with regard to his lack of ability to learn. If you look at this picture that you see on the screen now, that's still him now. I love that photo so much. Like, it just encompasses so much. He's got his head in his hands. He's crying. He's in a situation where he's been humiliated to the degree which not many people, I don't think it could get worse than that, apart from like extreme forms of torture, which we're not talking about here. It doesn't really get any worse than what he went through, and all deservedly so. I mean, obviously, there's no question about that. But it is remarkable if you think about everything that he's been through. He sort of got out and did his crazy lawsuits, and then continually found out about the sort of community, if you will. Continually got catfished, fake relationship after fake relationship, brushes with the law, kind of issues with family members, to issues with employment. Consistent lessons, life lessons that, things don't happen by accident to anybody ever. From a larger perspective, I mean, there is a meaning behind everything that happens. Of course, some things we can't. Some terrible things happen that we could never figure out. On a human perspective, we don't. Our minds are just not capable. But there is a sort of chaotic order in the universe, if you want to put it that way. There is no isolated incident. Scientists have proven that now. I'm going a bit deep here, but you know what I'm like. So everything that's happened to him, if you think about it, right, the whole reason that he has this kind of bizarre following is because of his lack of responsibility, is complete inability to see what he's done and what he is, and take responsibility for it, and his crazy excuses, and his crying, and his so it's his extreme form of reaction that's created all this. So then he finds out about it, and there's an extreme situation he has to deal with where he's continually getting catfished. And there will always be people out there that will do it. If one person stops, another will start. It will never end. If he has an internet presence or he answers his phone, there will always be someone somewhere that will do it for varying reasons. Some, there's no point going into that, but, there's reasons why people do it. Many reasons, but it'll never stop. So he has encountered an extreme, he put it in his letter to the judge or whatever it was, obsessors. He doesn't understand. He can't see the bigger picture. He can't see it because he only sees it from his very narrow perspective. Lorne doesn't have the awareness to see the bigger picture of anything, let alone his own situation. And let's be blunt, honest, should I say. You ring someone up for advice about a relationship problem or something, and it's always valuable to do that to get perspective, because you can't really see it. You suffer from tunnel vision of your own problems. And if someone can give you a different perspective and say, well, maybe, it's always helpful. So, of course, it's a common human problem, but Lorne's is extreme. So if we look at, like, the extremeness of his reactions to the whole situation, and then life's reflected that back to him and given him all this internet following, which is extreme, and it's kind of like life's trying to make him see that extremeness, that craziness is reflected back to him in the following that is adopted inadvertently, to try and make him break through these crazy mind structures that he's created in this false reality of being the victim. It's his victim mentality that is his undoing. As we know, from start to finish, if he didn't have a victim mentality, he'd never have got locked up, because he would have resolved his issues the right way. Let's put aside his attraction to children. Just because you have an attraction to children doesn't mean that you're an evil person. If you look at the documentary I posted on my channel about that guy who was like, I have these attractions, but I don't want to hurt anybody. I was born this way. It's not his fucking fault, is it? He's trying to deal with it. Lorne's, I don't think, run that deep in that he's a predator. He will look for... It's a survival instinct, isn't it? I've been reading a lot about, like, survival and how it's deeply ingrained. There's, like, a triad of sort of things that are embedded into what we do: reproduction, survival, like food. It's survival, food, sort of, and reproduction are the three main things. Survival is just staying alive, doing anything. But as humans, our survival is pretty much guaranteed. In other words, we're not, because we're at the top of the food chain, we don't have to worry specifically as an overall species about getting fucking picked off by another species or walking down the street. Although accidents can happen, we can become victims of other people, but generally speaking, we're at the top. So our survival, from the very basic level of staying alive from one moment to the next, in most circumstances, is pretty safe if you're a normal citizen that doesn't, do a dangerous job or anything. So what do you do then as a person? Have you ever wondered why? You think about any creature, let's just say a rabbit. I was walking before, it was fucking horrible. I saw a fucking rabbit had been shot in the head. Just fucking lying there. I was like, who the fuck would do that? Anyway, never mind. Have you ever wondered why? Let's just use a rabbit as an example. A rabbit comes into this world and it'll run around and it'll get its food. Why does any creature just not lie there when it's born and do fuck all? Why? Have you ever just think about that? I know it might sound ridiculous, but just ponder upon it for a minute. Why would any creature do anything? Why wouldn't it just stay there and do fuck all? Because it's this survival, this need to expand and carry on. Where does that come from? It's a very deep spiritual thing that you would never be able to find an answer for in science. Science dances around shit like this because, number one, it scares some scientists because they can't find the answer to it. And, number two, there is no answer to it. There'll never be a scientific answer for the deepest questions of, there's the hard problem of consciousness, which is very interesting, but where does it come from, this need to survive? And if you look at us as a species now, it's all about like procreation, accumulation, building social, expanding. So Lorne is like no different than any other creature. He comes along in this world and he's brought up in his family, and then he gets his job, and it's all survival. I need my job to survive. Everything that you do, think about every act that you do. I can guarantee it's all based around survival. You listening to this now is survival. You need to be entertained. Or whatever reason you listen to me prattle on about Lorne, whatever you get out of it personally. It's all about, everything is about survival. You want to be entertained. You want to Maybe you get insight from this. Maybe you learn something from this. It's all that you're learning. It's about your survival. You're trying to continue to survive. Something as simple as taking a walk. You're getting exercise. You're getting vitamin D from the sun. It's all about survival. Every decision that Lorne's made is the same. He's trying to survive. He's trying to find his way in this world. And this is why I don't buy into the good versus evil thing. I think there was a guy... There's a fantastic book that I've been reading, and a good friend of mine has been. I managed to introduce her to it, and she thinks it's the greatest thing ever. Well, maybe not the greatest thing ever, but anyway, it's called Inner Engineering: A Yogi's Guide to Joy by Sadhguru, and it's fucking fantastic. I'd recommend it to anybody. And one of the things he said, I think he actually said it in one of his talks I was listening to on YouTube, was there's no good or evil people. There are joyful people and there are miserable people, and that's the most accurate way of looking at it. Now, I know there might be some them people that did this, that, and the other. They're miserable. They've got no joy. They're full of hate and anger. It doesn't mean they're inherently evil. And this is the thing about Lorne. This is the thing that, like, I don't have any agenda with regard to any of this. All I'm interested in, all I've ever been interested in, is the truth. Yes, every now and again we have a bit of fun at his expense. I have said and done things which I'm not particularly proud of, like, demeaning him. He's there to be shot at. I'm a human. I have failings. I will sometimes use Lorne as an emotional punching bag. Some people do it far too much. Like when there was the Ramona stuff, the thing that really fucked me off with that was when they were trying to make out that he was racist. Now, I believe, I've not seen anything, but I know it's to be true because Shin told me, and I know he doesn't talk shit, that he has said and done racist things. I believe there was a letter he wrote where he was caught using the N-word, but right, okay, so it turns out that he was a racist, but at the time there was no evidence to suggest it was. I think he said something like, what was it now? Oh, to Ramona, you don't sound like you're black or something, and then she jumped all over it and was babbling on saying, oh, you're racist. Okay, well, that doesn't mean he's racist at all. It really fucking struck a nerve. I don't know whether I'm going a bit too far with it, but that kind of, the throwing the racism card around really fucks me off. It's just, whether it's like I don't know, it just really fucks me off. And it's like, there was just no need to go down that avenue. We've got a guy here who scammed an old couple. He's a fucking child predator. Why do we need to throw racism shit around? It's like I said, yeah, he's turned out he probably is one, but at the time there was no evidence. So what you're doing is, at that point, you've no longer got the truth on your side. So it just really fucking wound me up, really. And then, started getting a load of shit from various people. And I saw something a while ago on one of the social media sites, which I no longer follow. It was one of the Lorne Facebook groups, and someone, I think they pointed out, I can't remember who it was. There was a few people babbling on saying, Luke is racist. See, he wrote a racist letter. He was wrong all along. I was like, and that just kind of highlighted to me what I was dealing with. You like people that are not particularly bright. You've got, it was the fact that there was no evidence at the time, and then later on, evidence is uncovered that he is one. And it's not the fucking point, is it? It's the fact that, you have to stay on the side of truth with all this shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is a guy who scammed an old couple, who lies. He lies to himself. He lies to other people. He lies to probation. He lies to the court. He lies in his lawsuits. He lies to his mum. He lies to his supposed friends. He lied. He thought that, in his own crazy world, he thought that Tiffany was the one for him. And I heard one of the calls once, and he was blatantly lying to her. He's like, I love you so fucking much, and all that bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like, leave the lying to him. Don't adopt it yourself. So yeah, that's what really pissed me off with all that stuff. That's when I kind of went, oh, you know what, this is shit. I don't like it anymore. But maybe I'm getting, maybe it strikes a nerve with me too much. The old, making somebody out to be something they're not. There's no need to do it with this guy. I don't understand at all. Look at him. Look at that pathetic fucker. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to go down that route. But the sort of subject matter of the video that I wanted to talk about, which I haven't really, is how he belongs in jail. Because if you look at what was talking about 7 years ago, he's learned nothing from all the extreme situations that he's been involved with. He has broken the terms of his conditions, his was it like probation conditions, numerous times. He still drinks excessively. They never said, and this is something that kind of interests me, is that they never said he could never drink. It's very clever. I like the conditions that they brought in. No internet access, registered sex offender, no drinking to excess. Now let's look at what he's done since then, right? He's drunk to excess. He's exhibited predatory behaviour. He's always on the internet. He's started his own YouTube channel, for fuck's sake. He's sent new pictures to fucking people. He's divulged information that he had a relationship with an underage girl before he got caught in the sting. And we also know that he was in possession of child pornography. I mean, for fuck's sake. This is why it pisses me off with the Ramona shit and the racism stuff, right? Like I said, tell me if you think I'm going a bit too far down that road, but I don't think so. It's like it just pisses me off when, if you haven't got the truth, you haven't got anything. And if you're trying to, you're judging this guy and you're saying what he's doing is wrong, I can condemn him because I'm in the right and he's wrong. But I'm willing to lie and do something he does, even though I'm having to go at him for it. It really fucking rubs me up the wrong way, that. But let's look at the situation and what I've just said about is what we've uncovered. There's no need for any of that. All you need is the truth with this guy, which is he exhibits every negative aspect that a person could exhibit. Laziness, which is a massive thing. He's not kind. He's a sort of unkindness, if you will. He sort of fucks people over. He got some local tradesmen to do some work, wouldn't pay them. That's just a recent thing. He gets an expensive car that he can't afford and misses the payment. It's not hurting anybody specifically, but I don't know, there might be businesses might suffer losses for that, actually. These people that sell these cars, a company, yeah, they charge ridiculous interest rates, but ultimately some people, it's their only way of getting a car like that or whatever. But and then the amount of trouble he's causing probation and law enforcement, the courts, his family, his mum. He's luckily he doesn't have many friends, but all that he's doing is just phenomenal. And this is, let's look at it from the grand scheme of things. This is why we have to have a little bit of perspective when we're talking about this shit. Is that, in the grand scheme of things, Lorne's a nobody. He's harmless. No, I don't. Let's just make sure that we understand what I've said there with regard to being harmless. The real dangerous people in the world are the politicians and the CEOs that condemn millions of people to miserable lives from the stroke of a pen. It reminds me of that Simpsons with wiping out nations with a stroke of a pen. There's still time for all those things, sir. Is there new... Anyway, never mind. I'm going off on one there. What was I going on about? Yeah, he's not... Luckily, not that many people are fucking stupid enough to fall for Lorne's shit, if anybody. So he's not in a position, and luckily he's never harmed a real... Well, we've got the underage girl before. I don't think there was any physical contact there. There will have been some damage. I don't think it'll have done that person any favours. He has got a string of victims behind him. There's no doubt about that. But relatively, you know, in the grand scheme of things, he doesn't have the means to cause mass harm. He's never going to shoot up a building or any of that stuff. But there's always the potential. But taking that into consideration, he should be permanently incarcerated, in my opinion. I think it would take quite a either brave or stupid person to disagree with that. Number one is the drink driving thing alone. I've not even mentioned that. You know, I have a huge problem with that, as I think most people would. And I've got the right to fucking stand in judgment over those people because I've never even... it's never been... I know I can't really... you know, we can't compare ourselves to him, but I'll just use the comparison of the way that you know, that I've been. I used to be quite a big... I don't drink at all anymore. Well, I say I drink at all. I think I've drunk once in the last 6-7 weeks, and I didn't fucking enjoy it at all. But I was a big drinker. Probably only like 3 years ago when my drinking sort of stopped and went down, really. And at no point ever did it even cross or enter my brain to drink drive. It was never a consideration. Whenever I went out, it wasn't like planned to the minutest detail, but there would always be, right, I've got enough money for a taxi at the end of the night, or Sups Your Body's giving us a lift home, or I'll walk home. There was always a plan. There was always a contingency plan of getting home. It never entered my head to drink drive. Never. And it's like not, and I'm not saying because I'm the most fucking honourable guy that's ever lived. It was just like, well, why would you? You know, number one, I might end up in prison. It's number one reason, if I'm being totally honest, is for selfish reasons. Is I don't want to go to jail. Number two, I don't want to cause anybody else any harm. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to get fired. Blah 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 blah. I can't think of any positive reason why to save myself a few dollars at the end of the night. It just baffles me, if I'm being totally honest. This guy does it all the time. And this is a guy who's had brushes with the law. This is a guy who got caught doing it before. This is a guy who's been in jail for 5 years. That reason alone is enough to keep him incarcerated permanently, because he's putting other people at risk. Put even aside his predatory behaviour. Just put that to one side for a minute. He is a danger to people continually. Can you imagine an innocent person getting killed, or a child? Let's talk about the most extreme form, because it could happen. Let's talk about a 6-month-old baby and a fucking mother are crossing the road, and fucking stupid ass Lorne comes along in his white truck. Now, I don't want to stir up hatred with this, because you got to be careful about it. Don't let Lorne fucking put hate in your heart ever. Because don't give him dominion, and this is the thing. This is what you've got to be careful about. Don't condemn him. See him for what he is. But don't let him. Don't give him that kind of power over you. But you know that I'm using that example because that's quite possibly the most extreme, but it's a possibility every night that he does that, and it's just, can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's fucking terrible. That reason alone is enough to keep him locked up forever, in my opinion, because he won't change. And this is another thing that we could talk about, is that in order to change, you've got to want to. In order to want to change, you've got to recognise your own faults. In order to recognise your own faults, you've got to take responsibility. In order to take responsibility, you've got to have a certain degree of courage and wisdom. In order to have courage and wisdom, you've got to go through shit. Lorne doesn't. Even though he hasn't opened himself up to... He can't... He's protecting baby Lorne all the time from anything. It's like he's not fully giving himself to life. In order to fully give yourself to life, you will suffer. You don't have to. There's a bit of a paradox there. You don't have to suffer. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. But you come into this life screaming and crying. And it's like one of my favourite lines in the Bible. I can't remember exactly how it was worded. Was like, if you're not... I probably should remember this. Is you will be taken into the kingdom of heaven kicking and screaming unless you do it voluntarily. It means that, pain is something that is inevitable for growth. But suffering kind of isn't. So life will always give you the opportunity to grow, and you can do that through change, suffering, pain, and growing through that pain. But Lorne, and what sort of meant by that is dragged into the... If you don't open yourself up, if you don't remain open-minded and strive and challenge yourself and see life for what it is, it's all an illusion, the world that we're in now. I've experienced it firsthand through some pretty deep meditative shamanic experiences. I know you think I'm nuts. I'm not lying. I know it might sound crazy, but I've experienced what this world is all about, and the closest analogy is dreamlike. When you experience how you're meant to, you see this life as being like a dreamlike state, and you don't recognize that it's a dream when you're in the dream. It's like when you think about when you have a dream, right? When you're in that dream, everything seems real. As crazy as that dream is and the crazy things that you do, I remember having a dream when I was a lot younger that I was like married to Britney Spears, and I woke up and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. I remember waking up in a good mood, and then after a few seconds I was like, oh shit, it was a dream. But at the time, just think about how unfeasible that was for me to be married to fucking Britney Spears and nobody from Manchester. You know what I mean? But at the time, it felt real, and that's what this life is like. We're all given little challenges and little things that try and push us to step outside. It's like be in the world, but not of it. And you have to understand it's part of our... Because you have an inner purpose and an outer purpose. It doesn't really matter if you achieve your outer purpose or not. You're just playing around in the world, in the world of form. Your inner purpose is a lot more important, and that's to realise your true nature. And your true nature is something that can never be understood by science and never will be. It's something that is the greatest mystery ever, is consciousness. What is it? What are you? Ponder on that for a minute. Are you your emotions? No. Are you your memories? No. Are you your past? No. Are you the future? No. Are you your body? No. Are you your mind? No. What are you then? You're the awareness behind it. What is that awareness? No fucking idea. No idea. Anyway, I've gone off on there again, haven't I? Like I always do. Anyway, the point is, I can't even remember why I went on that rant then. I think we were talking about Lorne's kind of like crazy situation and why he's never learned, and he's still stuck in this protecting baby Lorne from harm from the outside world, and this is why he can't grow. He can't learn his lessons. It's a common problem. There's millions and millions of people to varying degrees like Lorne that will never learn lessons, that are criminally insane. I was talking to Shin the other day and he made a great point. Lorne's criminally insane. I don't think he's insane per se, but the line between insanity and sanity is not clearly defined. But with him, he can't abide by the law. He can't live a normal life. He can't look after himself. He can't form decent relationships. He's a child predator. He drink drives. He's a scammer. And this isn't me being horrible, trying to, stitch him up with being something he's not. That's the truth. And we've got evidence based on that. So he belongs in jail. He's been given opportunities. And so stay away from alcohol. Stay away from the internet. I love that bit in the Chris Hansen footage, in the original footage. Like, I need to go to counselling to get off the internet. It's amazing that at that point he gave himself some fantastic advice there, and that's the only time that he came face to face with what he was. He was crying. He was humiliated, and those words came from him. Because that was the real Lorne, the real being that was was actually coming to the surface at that point, and actually a realization moment happened of, I guess I need to go to counselling to get off the internet because I can't do this, oh my God. It was like, so what he was saying, real being Lorne was saying then, what the fuck are you doing in this mess? Coming to meet 13-year-old girls, talking shite on the internet, being a freak. Sort yourself out. You need help. You need to stay off the internet. And as he took and then as soon as he goes in prison, everybody else goes to blame. It's not, taking responsibility. This book that I was talking about by Sadhguru says responsibility is key to living a decent life in any aspect. You've got to take responsibility for everything, and it's that word, responsibility. So it's your ability to respond that's key. And rather than follow his own advice and go to counselling and get off the internet, I mean, the fact that he's been in sex offender class for 7 years and not passed is fucking unbelievable. I've been privy to what was written at court, and the probation officer ripped into him, tore him a new arsehole. The judge said, in less crude terms than what I'm about to say, is that you're a fuck up, you've demonstrated you're a fuck up, you can't abide by rules, you will not be getting out anytime soon. And that's the summary of it. And he should stay. I don't believe in condemning someone for their actions if they've learned from it. If Lorne, I understand why some people would condemn Lorne forever for what he tried to do. I get it, because what could be worse than trying to harm a child? Nothing. But I don't believe, if he was 200% stand up and say, listen, and admit the truth about what he is, and see, and he was able to 100% demonstrate that he saw it and would never harm anyone again and would take every step appropriate to change for the better, and it was 100% conveyed to us all with truth, that we knew he was being genuine. How could you condemn someone in that situation? How could you then say, well, no, I'm still not giving you a break? I don't believe in that. Everybody's got to have an opportunity to be better than what they are, because it would be better for the world. This is why I liked the Tiffany stuff, is because, she had a bit of fun with him and fuck with him, but it ultimately ended up her trying to say to him, listen, do you not fucking see what you are? Really trying to get to go through all these crazy mind structures and see the truth of what he is, and genuinely trying to help him, because she recognises that a healed Lorne is a safe Lorne. There's no more child predator out there. Less money being spent on the fucking judicial system and the fucking courts and the prisons. He's not going to be running around drink driving. So a healthy, safe Lorne means a healthy, safer community. So how can anybody disagree with that? You can't, unless you're a fucking idiot. And unfortunately, there's a lot of them about. But ultimately, he's not demonstrated for 1 second. It's like when Tiffany was talking to him and she was like those I am a predator calls, where she seemed to be getting through to him. And I remember, and even Clobbering Time said in one of his streams, like, I remember listening to it once and he was like, fucking hell, I never thought I'd hear Lorne say those words. And I was like, yeah, isn't this amazing? But the more I listened to it, because I must admit I've listened to them repeatedly, he didn't learn a thing. It's unfortunate, and nobody could have done a better job than what she did, but ultimately, he was just reciting what she had said to him. And he was only doing it because he thought he could get something out of it. In Lorne's brain, he thought he could get a relationship out of it. So he was telling her what she wanted to hear. He was going along with it because it was a woman. If it was a guy, they wouldn't have even got that far. Everything that she did, unfortunately, all fell on deaf ears. There would have been little moments where he's going, fucking hell, yeah. But that, immediately, he goes back to his old mind patterns because they're so intrinsically part of who he is that it would take some extreme forms of therapy to change him, like shock therapy. But you would think those extreme forms of therapy would be his general life from day to day, and life's continually trying to tell him, but he won't. If he quit drinking and face up to his demons, it would be very difficult, if not as close to impossible as you could get. But there's always a chance of redemption, but he won't do it. So, unless he could 100% say that he is redeemed and convince everyone, then he should remain in prison forever, as far as I'm concerned. No, I don't believe in torture for the sake of it, but he should be in prison. And do you know what? It's better for him. And I'm not saying it's better for him is that I care about him. I don't care about him at all. But I care about every other human being to a certain degree, in that a safer human being is better for everybody, just like what I was saying. He is better in jail for his own well-being. He can't function outside properly. He's got more chance of becoming a better person inside than he has outside, because he's got less opportunity to go crazy, to get drunk, to smoke, he's just not adjusted to living in the outside world. And there's a tragedy behind it. This is the thing. Let's always remember that. It's a tragedy that a human being has to live that way. It's a tragedy. It's like every human being who lives like that is like a bird in a cage. You've got so much potential. And, he was... I don't mean it's a tragedy in like, oh, let's feel sorry for him because he's suffering. It's a tragedy that every human being is glorious. And it's a tragedy that any human being would waste their life like that. And that, let's put it like this. Lorne didn't have the best start in life. He grew up in very difficult circumstances. Not very difficult. There's people that have worse. And people will say, well, people have been in worse situations and come out better. Of course, and that's great. But, he's not the brightest. He was, he's bullied by his brothers and sisters, potentially. I know that there has been talk. It's not something I want to go into, but there's some suggestion that something happened to him. His dad left him. His mother struggled. He was raised by his mom. So, he's failed by the welfare system and all that, if you can call it failed. So, it's very, very challenging for a child to grow up like he did, and he's lost his way. But he's had the opportunities to change. It's like, when we've done the streams with Tiffany, she said, like, she feels sorry for baby Lorne, but she doesn't feel sorry for adult Lorne. That's probably the best way to put it, really, because he's had the opportunities, but he just doesn't have that courage. But where does that courage come from? This is what fascinates me. This is why I always read these books. You never come up with the answer of what is the human spirit, but it's always fun to explore. But I don't, I'd love to hear what you think. I'm pretty sure everybody will agree with me with regard to him staying in prison. I know I come out with some wacky shit sometimes, but that's just the way I am, It's kind of this journey, if you want to call it that, I'm on of sort of self-discovery. Actualization, I like to call it. Check out actualize.org and his videos. He's fucking brilliant. Type in actualize.org on YouTube. It's really some good stuff, like really deep videos, some of it. Some of them a little bit too far, but That's the kind of things that I like reading about and listening to. And Lorne can offer some comic relief as well. And if we're going to have fun at anybody's expense, it might as well be fucking him. Do you know what I mean? It's like with all the catfishing that goes on. That's why I like the Tiffany stuff, because it was a bit of fun. We were all getting something out of it, but ultimately there was like an end game of trying to push him in the right direction. That's one of the reasons, like, as well as all the, there's no point. I don't want to judge anybody involved with it at all, because why? I don't know anything about those people, but I'm only going off what I've seen. I didn't like that fucking Ramona racism shit. I didn't like that there was just one end game, which seemed to be, let's try and psychologically destroy him. It's just not. I don't like it. Some people do. That's fine. Everybody's got their own path. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's not write shit on social media and start being silly and childish and going down the Lorne road. Let's all talk about it from our own perspectives and have a bit of fun with it, because it's fun to explore. It really is. It's interesting. We all have our own perspectives. There are some people with some strong opinions because of what they have been through, and it's ridiculous of me to condemn those people for their points of view, because I've never been through that. I'm not close to anybody that has. I have seen it firsthand in a professional sense many, 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 many times, so that gives me a bit of insight. But of course, going through it yourself is totally something different. So I get it. The people that might be listening to this who don't like my perspective, what I will say is that, I could never fully grasp or pretend to even understand what effect that must have on a person to go through because it's like, I remember in one of the Tiffany calls where she really got angry with him and went, people like you are at the bottom of the barrel. People like you. And it was like reminding me of Sarah Connor in Terminator 2 when she's having a go at Pennet Miles Bison, saying people like you built the atom bomb. And she started welling up because she was talking about, like, she knows people that have been affected and their lives are just ruined and they've got scars for self-harm, and as she's welling up, I'm welling up listening to it. I remember, I think Clobbering Time did a stream once where he touched upon it, where you could hear her. And it really hit home the effect that it has on people. And that's the one thing that we've got to remember, is that, yeah, look at that guy there. He is a predator. And I get why people will never give him a break. Totally get it. But one thing we've always got to do is remain on the side of truth, because if you don't, you lose everything. Because what have you got other than truth? Nothing. Anyway, that's me getting off my high horse now, because I've been going for 43 minutes and I'm tired. I'm not tired, but I've got stuff to do. My voice is... I've been prattling on, my fucking voice is going. Anyway, guys, I know I've rabbited on quite a bit there. Let me know what you think. There will be we've got some great ideas for some streams coming up. I thought I'd have a break from the streaming this week. But we've got some great ideas about some ones in the future, about Lorne and what's happened and various aspects of his case, and also some just TCAP stuff that I'm going to do with Shin and whoever else. Hopefully we'll get Clobbering Time on again, and Tiffany as well, and maybe some other people. Maybe we'll do another Lorne radio. I had to take the Lorne. Some videos I've had to take him down for various security reasons, shall we say. They will be coming back up in a couple of weeks, if anybody wondered. So I'll leave it there, guys. I wish you the best of days, and I'll speak to you soon.